subscribe. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course. Let's unpause and repause. That way we don't have to look at ourselves over to the side, distracting us. We got a lot of news to cover today. Breaking news, though, you have the Doha strike, actually in Qatar, carried out by the Israeli military. They were targeting some Hamas leaders. I'm probably going to make an extra video about that after the live stream, since that's fairly breaking news, and it's very consequential as well. Israel just carried out a targeted strike in a sovereign nation, one that is effectively neutral, and quite literally the other day was encouraging Hamas to accept the Israeli-brokered peace agreement, actually. So it looks like things are heating up yet again in that particular area. During the course of this live stream, we may have breaking news at any given time with regards to this. I'm assuming that there could be a U.S. response, a Qatari response. We're not sure. We're sort of in untested waters on this one. So yeah, we'll be talking about that. We've got a bunch of other news, though, that was already docketed. So we'll talk about Doha in Qatar. We've got a new release of Epstein documents, and I covered that this morning, but this is pretty consequential, not so much for the documents themselves, but because of the legacy media propaganda surrounding them. So I'm going to have to get to that as well. We have commentary. Trump's Chipocalypse, Chicago, is no joke, though it absolutely sounds like one. I pointed out earlier that any time that something new is tried, when something old is not working, the people that are trying to create something new are typically ridiculed. If it works, then obviously, years later, they're recognized as a genius. That whole alternating current thing and stuff like that. Remember at the time that Edison electrocuted an elephant with an alternating current to show why Tesla was an idiot? Yeah, that went over real well. Trump-style populism rising in Europe. I have noticed this. We've got a new LSD study, actually, that shows that LSD may complete cessation for anxiety. They've been also experimenting with iboga and psilocybin, among other, and ayahuasca to an extent. And people claim that it relieves the symptoms of, various mental disorders. I believe this. Having taken, non-psychedelic mushroom supplements for some time, I can vouch for the effects of some of these things on the human brain personally, that cause neuroregeneration, the change in the action of the synapses and so forth. It does actually work. It's just, some of the claims are overblown. We'll put it that way, but at the same time, this is one of the reasons, many reasons, I'm against the drug war. It's not just because I believe in maximized personal liberty. It's also because we've been hampering medical studies into these substances and fallen way behind other parts of the world with regards to actually understanding their action. We've got some other news to cover as well, so we'll be covering all sorts of good shit. 'Tis a good day. It's one of those days where you have too much news. I prefer those over the days where you don't have enough and you have to scrape the bottom of the barrel and talk about something nobody gives a fuck about. I really hate those days. I would rather be overloaded, because then I can always carry over some of that news to the next day if it's still pertinent and still, fresh, and, it sort of depends. So, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Bobby, the Qatari is a Muslim version. The Qataring. Yes, if Jeremy rebranded himself as the Qataring and started wearing a turban or something like that, I have a feeling that if he did a joke video doing that, it would be very popular. Yeah, that would be hysterical. In fact, I should contact him and I say, Bobby had a great idea, and you should definitely do this. Let me write some jokes in there for you, because it'd be hilarious. Mike the Want. After the incident on the train in Charlotte, I think they would now be required to sit in the front of the train. Yeah, we're going to have reverse segregation, I suppose. That was a sad incident. I covered that on my New Tech exclusive. Yes, the Ukrainian asylum seeker, like a legit asylum seeker, fleeing a war zone, instead gets killed on a light train in Charlotte, North Carolina. Totally unprovoked. 23 years old, attractive lady. just dude behind her randomly starts stabbing her. There doesn't appear to have been any real impetus for why he would do this. I have a feeling drugs may have been involved, and or, psychotic collapse of some sort. Oh yes, M1 Dom. Yes, that's another video that I need to make after the live stream. In fact, let me get in the docket. Greta Thunberg's ship, which is currently off the coast of Tunisia, supposedly got hit by a drone attack. Now, why there would be a drone attack in that region, far, far away from anything happening far to the east, was anybody's suspicion. The fact is that there was no drone strike on little Greta's ship. Somebody fired a flare, and I don't know whether this was on purpose or whether somebody fired a flare and it was an accident or something like that, but this is absolute clickbait. Greta Thunberg's ship did not get hit by a drone. That little fire up front that you see there would not be indicative of a drone strike, and I was also thinking, let's put our thinking caps on. Why would there be a fire in the hold, since the drone would have exploded on top of the deck? It really makes you wonder. It's bullshit. It's attention-seeking. This was probably on purpose for attention, or it may have been somebody was being retarded, basically. Those are the two explanations. It was not a drone strike. There's no war zone around Tunisia anyway. And by the way, why would anyone attack the ship? What reason would they have? What purpose would it serve? Literally none. Sassmaster, what's your best guess for what's going to happen in the country over the next 5 to 10 years? Recovery, generally speaking. I'm rather optimistic, actually, about the country. I'm rather happy about the direction that we're going in. Cleaning out illegals, fortifying the border, preferentially not starting wars and using diplomacy instead. Tax relief, which apparently does extend to my line of work. Apparently, for Trump's taxation purposes, half of my income is no longer taxable. I'm going to be very happy next tax season, by the way. Just saying. Blissful arrogance. After stabbing the Ukrainian girl, he said, "I got the white girl." Yeah, well, it's not a huge surprise. It reminds me, I pointed out this morning, it reminded me of the knockout game. Spike. I think what's coming down the pipe are laws that hold the judges accountable for releasing killers and rapists early. If not, people will deal with them themselves. It's only a matter of time. I don't care which one happens. Either go after the judges or vigilantism. I can't legally prescribe it. I can't encourage people to kill their local neighborhood murderer or rapist. But I can say it wouldn't make me cry any tears. I can say that. Sleepy Johnson. Greta probably shot the flare at someone after having an autism meltdown. That would be, if we find out that Greta was the one that fired the flare, I'm going to die laughing. It'll be like Chaz Garden on steroids. It'll be so ironic and funny and so hysterical in every way, I may not survive. So, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's get to our sponsors really quickly. Before we get to the rest of the news, we have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get various kinds of mushroom pills. Yes, they are neuroregenerative. At this point, I've got enough evidence to know that they are. They're extremely good for you. They boost energy and promote good health. You can also get doggo snacks from them as well. Your pupper will enjoy them. The pupper that I fed the other bag, and I'm hoping that they send another one soon, just so I can bribe dogs, like when I'm out for a hike. Like, oh, good pupper, and you feed them a treat, and then they do, cute things with their paws and stuff. Trust me, you will not be disappointed in your purchase. We have BiltongUSA.com. Anton, by the way, tradition on this channel, it will always be Bovrite when Anton comes in the chat or when he is mentioned. He can get you Bovrite, Vegemite, and Marmite. And also bags and bags of meat. Like, I've still got some in the freezer. Quite a lot of meat. I can't even eat it all. I can't keep up. And he's got Wagyu, which is delicious. By the way, apparently, there is now a Vermont company that makes certified Wagyu. I'm going to be talking to Anton later and say, look, if you made a made-in-Vermont version, you would make so much fucking goddamn money if you took this shit, turned it into biltong, and sold it at the farmer's market. You wouldn't even be able to count all the Benji greens. He can also get you Sticks, X and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts, among other things. And finally, jamandbean.com, which is the coffee I am currently drinking. This is the Costa Rica blend this time. Clank, clank. And it is delicious. Best coffee I've had. Best tea I've had, too. And the Yunnan Jig is no joke. I wish I had like 20 bags of it right now. I'd be double brewing it just to get extra tea potency out of it. It really is that good. And it hits good, too. It has almost as much caffeine in it as coffee anyway, so, you know, if you don't like the taste of coffee, but you want to get that caffeine rush, skip the Coke Zero or whatever you're drinking, and just get some goddamn Yunnan Jig from Jam and Bean. That's what I'm talking about. Copium Poppies, follow up to yesterday's Subway conversation. Did you see the DM I sent yesterday detailing the way I got mine? If so, now do you see why I actually tip at Subway? Yeah, your order is a little bit more convoluted than mine. Mine is, I want the herby bread, toasted, slam the meatballs into it, whatever, and then with some lettuce and chipotle no cheese. My order is fairly simplistic. Believe it or not, your own favorite Sticks does not have cheese on his meatball subs. Lettuce and chipotle are very much appreciated, however. Pile that chipotle high on there. That's what I'm talking about. Mike the Wop, when my mother died, I learned the government steals some of what she left for me through taxes. Is this morally correct? No, it is not. I would point out you had to have inherited quite a bit in order for it to have been taxed, but no, I don't believe in taxing any inheritance. I believe it should be a 0% tax on inheritance. Bobby, Sticks, the Qataring said he's going to do a jihad on your pirate booty. And watch out, Tarl. Yeah. No, keep in mind that actually that area is a nest of piracy, so I would have allies in the area. And in response, we're going to steal one of the Quartering's oil rigs, or one of the ships that's transporting his coffee. We'll hold it hostage. And then there'll just be a live stream where I'm just sitting there staring into the camera, drinking his coffee and laughing. Copium Poppies, Sticks, try that recipe just once and report back. It's really fucking good. I've been perfecting that since I was 11. Damn, you've done Subway alchemy. I will try it, but today, later, I'm going to get a meatball sub, but I'm going to have it my way. I promise to put pictures on Twitter. That's what I'm talking about. Israel attacks Hamas senior leadership in Doha, Qatar. And by the way, some people call it Qatar, but I believe the actual pronunciation is Qatar, actually, if I remember correctly. There seems to be some confusion over this. Strike targets officials as they met in the Qatari capital where Hamas had offices and residence. Of course, we don't know who actually was killed in the strike. Could have been random people. I personally don't think this is a good idea. Qatar is a sovereign nation, and it's been a broker, it partnered with the U.S., by the way, partnered with the West mainly, through this entire process to try to stop what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Israel, with Iran and surrounding areas. They've been mainly negotiators, mainly brokers. Qatar has it nice. It's basically a microstate with an enormous amount of money, a huge development index, and they have absolutely no reason to be confrontational to anyone else. Basically, they're the Middle Eastern equivalent of what the Dutch would be for Europe. They don't give a shit. Hand me money, and I'll get things done. That's basically the way that Qatar does business. And there's all sorts of crazy shit there. I mean, you should see the design of some of their cities. Well, the artificial islands and stuff, it's sort of like Bahrain and, surrounding microstates, Kuwait to an extent as well. High development. When you've got a small nation with a huge amount of resources, it makes things a little bit more simple sometimes. I'm not sure that this is a good idea, and since this is pretty breaking news, it's not entirely clear at the moment whether Hamas officials were even killed at all. That would be bad, by the way, for Israel diplomatically. If they did conduct a strike and they missed, or they got the wrong target or anything like that, they're going to be raked over the coals by the international community. So we'll see what fucking happens. Coffee and poppies, get both. That way I make it has to sit in the fridge overnight anyway. That step is crucial. I don't know that I want to do that, though. I kind of want it just hot and ready. I'm probably going to be unwrapping it when I'm in the car and smashing it down my throat right away. I'm not going to be able to help it. It's an affliction. Snakes bleed red. Styx does love gutter whores. No, not really. And chicks that call the cops on you. Yeah, well, that didn't happen, actually. Interesting story. I'll tell it someday. 5 takeaways from the new Epstein documents. Yes, takeaway number 1, the legacy media is going to endlessly parrot this as though we had corroboration that the letters were even from Donald Trump to begin with. We're not sure, actually. It could be literally, I could create this and take Trump's signature from, some sort of statement or document and impose it and then photocopy it out and send it in, and it might be taken for real. It is a real signature, it's just that he didn't sign it to that particular document. It's called forgery, by the way. That is possibly what happened here. I'm willing, though, to acknowledge the likelihood that it's real. I just question whether it means anything or not. Here's the first letter, and it's on the outline of a naked woman, basically, crudely scribbled. This is a voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything. Donald, yes there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I don't know what it is. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes we do, come to think of it. Donald, enigmas never age, have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. This doesn't sound like Donald Trump's particular choice of language. That's my first red flag here. Secondly, we have no evidence that this is technically real at all. We don't even know that this was... we know it was from the Epstein estate. They gave up the letter. But we don't know if this was some sort of joke by Epstein, that like he would show it to guests or something like that. We have no clue. Thirdly, this is from 2003. Now, why does this matter? Because that's before Jeffrey Epstein was known to be a pervert. So really, if Donald Trump were palling around with him, and we do have evidence that he did hang out with Epstein at the time, who cares? He had no way of knowing the dude was involved with any criminal behavior. Did he hook Donald Trump up with young models and shit like that? Probably. There's a 99% chance that Epstein supplied him with numerous young women so that he could fuck them and then buy them a Porsche. This is probable. This is likely. That does not mean that they were underage. If they were of age and they're like, hey, there's this rich famous dude, he makes like $100 million a year just in rent, free and clear, that's beyond taxes. So I'm going to screw him. I'm going to take his mushroom dick. That's what Stormy Daniels referred to it as. I take his mushroom dick for a weekend, and then I get a car. I take his mushroom dick from the weekend. He'll put me up in a penthouse for the next 2 months, and I can pamper myself, and I'll have, like, wait staff and everything. It'll be like living, the high lifestyle. Women do this. So do men, by the way. People do this. By the way, I don't look down on people who predominantly marry or get in relationships for wealth and fame and things like that, because it's just another mating strategy. Mating strategy is a man wants a woman who is genetically good to father his children. That's the genetic drive of a man. The genetic drive of a female is to try to therefore be able to provide for those children. It is a biological drive. So you're going to seek out men that can do that. So strong man, well, he can defend you. Okay, that's good. Rich man, he can afford everything for you and buy guards that can defend you. That's good too. An intellectual man, well, he's going places. He's a genius and stuff. Good conversation, that's always a good thing. Maybe a little bit autistic, tends to come with the territory. But he's probably going to make a lot of money too, so these are things that women look for. Hardworking, good, kind man. Being handsome, of course, doesn't help. It doesn't help me, you may have noticed, but it helps some men. But it's just sort of a thing. But there's no indicator that Trump, who kicked Epstein out of his properties after improprietous behavior towards an underage employee, there's no indicator that he ever did anything with a kid. There's literally no proof. When I look at this, I say this is either a joke or they're just palling around. This is, back in their party days. This is back before Donald Trump knew that he was a pederast, basically. So I don't really give a shit. Nevertheless, the legacy media is dogpiling this story right now, along with every other commentator. Even some MAGA aficionados were dogpiling me earlier when I made my main video on the subject and said, look, I just don't care about this because it's meaningless. And some people were like, oh, well, Donald Trump's a pervert. Can I please have evidence of this? I don't even need absolute proof. Can I have actual evidence of it? Of any kind. You can supply that freely by Twitter DM, because I ain't seeing it. Raman C. GTC, seeing your 666 everywhere. Don't know why. Well, it's just like there are owls everywhere here in Rutland. The times they are a-changin'. Green Text Pro, the evil tech-tard geniuses on clankers.net. I have video feed page content for content created by fellow clankers. Go to feed.clankers.net. Creators, join clankers.net to add your vids. Yes, I am very much loving the YouTube poops made of me, by the way. They should be uploaded to actual YouTube as well in order to share them around. Yeah, there's a new one with meatball subs involved, which, by the way, is probably what I'm going to be eating tonight. I got massive cravings the other day talking about D'Angelo's, thinking back to that time where I smashed the sub down my throat and, I ate half of it again before my dad finished his first bite. And he was all disgusted, and the look on his face was priceless. I wish I could have gotten a picture of that. I would definitely be putting that on the internet. It would be hilarious. But I got such a terrible craving. Like this morning, I woke up and all I could think of was fucking meatball subs. I always have mine. It's toasted bread, just the meatballs, no cheese, lettuce, and chipotle. That's all. Copium Poppies. Missed one. Oh, I did? Sorry. I didn't meet... Oh. That's... No, Oh, that's what I'm saying. Get both. That way you have the way you make it for immediate gratification, then have my recipe for later. I don't know that I'm going to like it if it's been refrigerated and reheated, honestly. Sorry, but I'm not sure I can follow you down that particular path. I'll try it sometime, but yeah, today I'm just going to get the one. Commentary. Trump's Chipocalypse now is no joke, though it absolutely sounds like one. Referring to transformative change within politics as a joke, a bad joke, fanaticism, stuff like that, is very common among establishmentarians. What happens is that they get used to the status quo, and typically these are people from, the journalistic class. They tend to be in the upper middle class. So they've gotten used to the status quo that is clearly benefiting them. They don't, have to wonder where their next meal is coming from. They're not like the working class, or people who are poor, or people who are in maybe the lower echelons of the middle class. They're struggling right now. They've been struggling for years because of Biden's out-of-control inflation and wages being driven down by competing with people who are willing to work for less than minimum wage. Just look at that Hyundai factory. Over 400 people rounded up in one single factory in one single raid. Don't you think that depresses wages? Oh yeah, senor. I'll gladly work for $10 an hour. That's fine. Yeah, I can give half of that back to my family as a remittance, and I'll be able to afford food. This is great. Way better than my home country. I have pity for these people. But you still got to obey the laws. We can't have American workers being undercut by people who are willing to work for half the wage. That's how you drive wages down. Bernie Sanders used to goddamn understand this. He stopped understanding it around the time he decided to run for the presidency. God, that's fucking good coffee. Shit. Anyway. Oh, I was going to put some of the maple syrup in it, too. This is the only sweetener that I'll use, by the way, in my coffee. I never use, regular sugar. Just a little tiny sweet drizzle. Yeah. Sent that by a subscriber. Thank you very much, by the way. Perfect. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm a Vermonter, so you'll excuse me if I stick to the maple syrup for sweetening purposes. Copium Poppies. No, it's not reheated after being refrigerated. Eat cold from the fridge. Maybe I'll try it. Anyway, I support the Chipocalypse. This is a good idea. Having ICE agents simply flanking local law enforcement, staties or whatever, and again, the seniority is a gray area in some cases. Like the staties are definitely going to have total seniority if it's on a highway or something like that. And generally, the sheriffs would have seniority in most situations. But again, it's a gray area, it depends. I have no problem with ICE agents flanking the police, following them around, and if they pull someone over for something, the ICE agent can question them. Now, if they've got a driver's license, this would be vehicular in nature, then it shouldn't be hard to prove that you're a U.S. citizen because you can simply say, here, run my license, ta-da, and then you drive off and go about your merry way. Or you may be a lawful resident or something like that, and you've got paperwork probably. Why don't you use your brains? Let's say you're in the United States, you're not a citizen. You're a lawful resident, maybe you're a migrant worker, but you've got the ability to work in the United States seasonally or something. Carry your paperwork on you. That's all that you have to do. You're not going to be bothered. You got pulled over for speeding. What's going to happen? Hand them the paperwork. They say, okay, yeah, that's fine. You get a fine for speeding maybe, or a warning or something, but nobody's going to deport you for that. Nobody gives a shit. Half the time, dude, the cops here in Rutland, they're so short-staffed, they won't even respond to certain calls anymore. If it's something minor, they literally do not care. Oh, that person's clearly publicly intoxicated, but yeah, I've got bigger things to do. Yeah, the quota system they had before appears to have been done away with too, with regards to even like speeding and stuff like that. Everyone speeds in the state of Vermont, especially people from Massachusetts, I noticed. Nobody cares. So don't worry too much about the ICE agents unless you're illegally in the country. So, if you're illegally in the country and you're not doing something wrong, no harm, no foul. Nobody's really prioritizing you. You just go about your business, I guess. If you do something wrong while you're illegally in the country, you might get deported. And that's what is justified. Kobe and Poppies, 2 things that are best cold from the fridge without reheating. Leftover pizza and the way I get subs at Subway. I will agree with you on the pizza. By the way, there's leftover pizza cold in the fridge right now. I haven't tried that with Subway, though. I'm not sure that I'm going to like it. I kind of like it when it's really, really still hot and, the bun is still crisp. My worry is that the bun will soak in the liquid from the sauce, and then it'll get all weird. And also, I like lettuce on mine, so that'll get kind of weird the next day after being refrigerated and like partially thawing out. It just gets a little bit odd. It's just not as fulfilling as it was on the first day. I'll probably eat half of it in one go, and then I'll do a bunch of writing and stuff like that, and then I'll eat the other half. That's usually what I do. I like to take work breaks in between breaks from work, if that makes sense. I'm a workaholic. I can't fucking help it. Cezio, any thoughts on the philosophical idea of think and grow rich? You think yourself into happiness and success through repetition towards a definite aim. The power of positive thinking is a powerful thing. Yes, indeed. Basically, it's sort of like dress for success. If you dress like a schlub, it's going to be harder to succeed than if you dress for what you actually want to be doing. Why do you think I dress as a pirate? I wish I was plying the Spanish Main right now. Rabbit, I'm never wrong, except that one time, and it doesn't count. No, Queener. What if we socially engineered the suppression of Islam and Judaism in the West by banning circumcision? If you guys agree, super chat it. It's the shortest path to a legal bulwark against them. I do believe absolutely in banning infant circumcision. I've been an intactivist for a very long time. It has no generally regarded medical benefit, and is basically nothing more than a superstitious holdover for multiple religions. It is not widely practiced in many parts of the world, and is completely useless. There is an exception. Occasionally someone gets phimosis, and this can be prevented without circumcision, by the way. It is possible to simply cut a slit in the foreskin so that it can retract more easily. As for people complaining about, well, my child might get dick cheese, it's unhealthy. It's called wash their penis for them when they're too little to do it for themselves. If you think that weird, that makes you weird at that point. It's your little son. Come on, wash his fucking cock. You know, there's nothing sexual about dick cheese unless you're into some really weird shit. Copium poppies. It's not just any sub that is good cold. It's the specific recipe, and there are steps in the recipe that prevent the bread from getting soggy from the sauce, i.e. having them heavily toast the bread first. I will try your sandwich, but then I want you to try my meatball sub variant, and you fucking tell me that it's not better than yours. Again, no cheese, plenty of lettuce, and then double line of chipotle on top. Yeah, the chipotle sauce actually at Subway is incredibly good. Now, basically, with Circumcision, it's a holdover. The only reason it hasn't been banned in civilized nations is because of the existence of religions that mandate it. And so they make this big argument about religious freedom. I would think religious freedom is subjugate to individual freedom, especially in the United States. That was sort of the point of the founding of our nation. Go ahead and be superstitious. You know, believe that your kid will have demons inside of them because they didn't get their dick chopped in half or something like that. Would we tolerate a religion, for example, to say, we believe that demons will infest your children's ears unless we dock them at birth? So we're going to cut off the outer part of their ear. Oh, they'll still be able to hear and everything. Everything's fine. Don't worry. It's not causing them any harm. They don't feel pain. They're babies, basically. Seems to be a common Judeo-Islamic argument, by the way. Many Christians follow along with it too. But you can cause adverse health effects. You could get, you can get an infected wound. You could bleed out. Maybe the kid's a hemophiliac. You don't even know it, and all of a sudden the blood's just spurting out of their dick and shit like that. People have died. People have had genital deformities because of infant circumcision. I notice we don't allow that for females now, do we? If a religion were to claim, hey, we have the religious right to remove the clitoral hood because we believe that it has health benefits, and that's always the excuse that is used, obviously. We wouldn't tolerate that. We don't allow Islamists to cut off their daughter's labia and stuff like that to give them a labiectomy. A labiectomy, by the way, doesn't even affect sexual function, like a circumcision for males can. It removes some of those nerve endings. Now, I've pointed out, I am circumcised, because back when I was born, it was common among most people in the United States. I mean, it had been pushed for decades by the eugenics movement, which should give them pause as far as considering it to be a good idea, but they don't really like to hear about Margaret Sanger and certain other individuals within their movement, or Kellogg. Yeah, eat that fucking cereal, kids. You need more grain and, nice wholesome sugar in your diet. I don't have any sexual dysfunction. My dick is normal. But there are some who are not so fortunate, unfortunately. Yeah, back then, the majority of people who had, like, a Protestant Christian background, they got circumcised at birth. With Catholics, relatively less. Copium. Okay, we have a deal, but my version has spinach instead of lettuce as it has more nutritional value. Lettuce is mostly water. Spinach is fine. Yeah. You can put arugula on it. Yeah, pretty much anything. A drunk changeling. Circumcision can prevent infections. Yeah, and cutting off your hand can prevent hangnails. I like that point, and I've made it before. Well, you can't get breast cancer if you've got no breasts. So when young girls hit puberty, we should just chop their boobs off. They'll never get breast cancer. You can't get ovarian cancer if you've got no ovaries. We should remove them too. You see where this is going? It's retarded. Oh yeah, I can't get toenail fungus if I don't have any toes. Let me chop them off too. Once everything is... I'll just be like a pile of organs connected to a machine keeping me alive with my head intact. Oh shit, but then I might get brain cancer. Well, I guess you have to scoop that out too. And that's about the mental level of people that are supporting involuntary infant circumcision. Sorry, but I don't support it. Well, I'm not sorry at all, actually. Copium poppies, but for the deal to be valid, you gotta get my version exactly as outlined, just as I will with your recipe. They don't have arugula at Subway, lol. Oh, that's sad. Dual helix, what about wisdom teeth? Those can cause problems. With some people, they get impacted, they get all fucked up, so that's a little bit more common. But it is kind of similar. But removing your wisdom teeth probably isn't going to impact your ability to eat a steak. Whereas chopping off a portion of your penis might impede your ability to get it up, keep it up, and go all the way. Yeah, man, you know what I'm talking about. Stick that cock in a vagina. Zachary Antle. Meanwhile, for those who still believe circumcision prevents masturbation, look at the Gooners, LMAO. Yeah. That was the original purpose. It only became popular in the United States, by the way, because it was prescribed by the eugenics people. This is late 1800s, early 1900s. They said, well, you can keep your son from masturbating. Masturbation, they thought, could drive a person to lunacy. They thought it could make them crazy, quite literally. So they were trying to dissuade it. That's like the old joke about having your arms outside of the blankets when you go to sleep for young boys. There was a reason for that. And it wasn't just a joke at the time. They were very, very hung up on the sexual issue. And thought it could cause madness, you'd get diseases and all sorts of other terrible things and lead to social illness, basically. That is, the person would become like a sociopath and society would suffer, and they were trying to clean up society and shit like that. That's the only reason it became popular. Copium Poppies, take the skin and peel it back. Doesn't it make you feel better? Trent Reznor, March of the Pigs. Goodness. Real Talk with Joe, news, politics, and more. TMZ is reporting nude photos of Greta Thunberg have leaked after her spokesman says she was hacked. I'm not sure that I want to see those, honestly. Just saying. Yeah. I'll look into it. I'm hoping that it's heavily censored. Oh, Jesus. I'm hoping that this is some sort of joke. I'm not clicking on anything related to it if that's true. Thankfully, it doesn't look like it is. Okay. The world is safe for another day. It's only a matter of time, though. She doesn't have very good judgment. Heraclea 610. Wasn't a botched circumcision part of Stone Toss origin story, or is that more communist lies? I believe that's communist lies, if I remember correctly. Yeah, if we have Greta Thunberg nudes, well, there'll be a bulimia epidemic, I suppose, you know. People lose weight, they won't be able to keep food down. Trump-style populism is rising in Europe. In Britain, France, Italy, Germany, and elsewhere, voters are rejecting the establishment's nihilism. But, by the way, this is a WSJ article. For them to publish something like that means, yeah, in that essence, you can say this is actually real. This is something that I predicted for over a decade now. When we look at Maloney, when we look at AFD, when we look at the resurgence of Nigel Farage with the UK Reform Party and so forth, yeah, I'd say populism is taking off in Europe, and here's the good news. This is what I hoped would happen. What I worried would happen is that the European establishment class would suppress these movements, keeping them out of politics, and people's anger would continue to build and build. There'd be no pressure valve to release it. There would be no non-establishment individuals to stand for office who weren't effectively radicals, like actual radicals. When you look at Maloney, she's not a radical. She's center-right, at best. When you look at Le Pen, who has been literally banned from running for office for absolutely no fucking reason whatsoever, her party, Front National, continues to rise. She's got a hand-picked successor in the meantime, and presumptively in the future will probably run for office again. AFD, despite the fact that the German government has actively persecuted them on multiple levels, is still the fastest growing party in Germany. They're doing much better than anyone ever anticipated them doing, and they're the second largest party in all of Germany. You look at the UK. Nigel Farage, for a while there, was relatively quiet. Then he came back and he said, okay, enough of this horse shit. And now his party is leading the leaders, which is Labour. It is, in fact, I believe 12 points ahead of them at the current moment. And it'll probably continue. This is great. What I'd hope for is exactly what's happening. I'm excited for Europe, actually, in its near future, especially if the United States continues to be run mainly by populism. If the entire Western world can simply revert to a simpler time, where we respected one another's languages and cultures, people could come into your country, but they were expected to reasonably assimilate. We actually went after criminals, and we ignored things that shouldn't be considered criminal in the first place in order to divert resources, like the drug war and shit like that. If we went back to that sort of time, it would be so much a better world in every possible way, shape, and form. Between AFD, Front National, Maloney and her people, Nigel Farage and the UK reform movement, and so forth, we see hope. This gives me hope. My worry was that these groups would be cast aside to the point where other people who are much more radical and much more unscrupulous would rise up in their wake, and they would offer an alternative for Germany that was conceivably far worse than AFD. Because AFD is not a radical organization at all. They call them radicals, but really, yeah, they're pretty milquetoast. But they do offer reform. It's just a reform that is more pragmatic. But when people are denied pragmatic reform, they stoop to unpragmatic non-reform. They end up indoctrinated by groups that are violent and things like that. That's how you get terrorism and shit like that. Thankfully, it looks like Europe is beginning to heal. And you have like the tractor movement in the Netherlands. You have similar movements in other countries as well. I see this as a very positive development. Celestial. We've had Greta AI nudes for years. Yeah, I know. The AI her to have like big tits and weird shit like that. I've seen that on 4chan. Not interested. No, Coiner. Hard to get support to ban circumcision, but framed as a way to stop Jews in Islam, make them defend the practice. Culture is right for banning it, Sticks. I still think the way to go after infant male circumcision is mainly to simply point out that it has no health benefits, is a waste of time, that sexual dysfunction and things like that are not any more prevalent among the uncircumcised and the circumcised, nor dick infections and STDs and shit like that. They morphed their argument. Originally it was circumcise your son so he doesn't play with his dick. Like that ever worked. Then it was, hey, circumcise your infant son because it'll lower his risk of STDs. This became a prevalent argument after the AIDS epidemic began. Well, it makes it less likely that they'll get AIDS. They've until recently, they were funding mass circumcision programs in the middle of Africa, actually, to try to get people circumcised as a stopgap against AIDS. When they realized that it really didn't have any real demonstrable effect, they abandoned the program. Imagine that. The government admitting that they were wrong. It doesn't happen often. Funka Puppet, did you hear court denied Eugene Carroll appeal? Yeah, I saw that. Meissner Flux, I could get cavities, but I am not knocking my teeth out to prevent. No healthy body part functions better with its removal. Also, the do no harm medical premise. Are soap and water difficult to master? Yeah, I mean, it's real hard for somebody to clean their cock. As Jordan Peterson would say, clean your penis. Cobium poppies, leave Greta and her extra chromosome alone. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's totally farcical. That was a flare. That was not a drone attack on Thunberg's ship. By the way, does that ship use fossil fuel? Oh, shit. Yeah, there's no hypocrisy there of any kind. Psychedelic drug popular in 1960s could ease anxiety as doctors share warnings. Certain doses led to complete remission of anxiety, but some risks remain. The risk of LSD is getting arrested for using LSD. Let's put it that way. In amounts acquired by the average person, LSD is effectively non-toxic. Is it mind-altering? Yeah. Should you drive on acid? No, you should not. Should you operate heavy machinery? No, much like with having several beers, you probably should not get behind the wheels of a tractor when the trees are talking to you and the grass is changing color. That's probably not a good idea. Is LSD generally safe in normally acquired amounts if you're just sitting there in your living room watching TV? Yeah, it's safe. I've heard people say, well, it can trigger psychotic episodes. Yeah, and people that are predisposed and probably would already exhibit a psychotic episode at some other time anyway. Other than that, again, there have only been, as far as I know, 2 cases in human history that have been documented where somebody managed to die using LSD. In one of those cases, a person was trying to smuggle it, soaked their clothes in it, and then went to the airport. Well, that didn't go over so well because they didn't realize it was skin soluble in that massive amount. When you're dripping with, half a gallon of LSD, that might get you high as balls. And I can just imagine how he acted before he died of a massive stroke, I believe it was. But I've taken acid before. Took it on 3 occasions. I took my first tab actually the day that I got fired from my student alumni calling position. And I felt upset. I'm like, shit. Well, that's money that I could have used. At the time, I wish that I'd kept the job because Bitcoin came out not long after that. And, for one paycheck, if I had invested in that on day 1 of launch when it was less than a cent a piece, I'd be sitting pretty on like $100 million right now. Not that I would have had the foresight to save the money, so I don't fault myself for that one. But LSD basically is a gateway drug to watching Alice in Wonderland. I watched the cartoon of Alice in Wonderland, the old 60s one. Man, it was great! Like the flowers and shit were changing colors and there were flashing lights and all sorts of crazy shit. And then I settled into a chat room and I was just zen at that moment. And I told people, I'm like, wow, this is cool. I'm high on LSD. Nobody believed me. They thought that I was sober because I wasn't acting weird or anything like that. I was having, for the first time actually on ICQ, normal conversations. So they figured that I was in a normal mood. No, I was actually high on LSD at the time. And the next time I watched Yellow Submarine, that wonky psychedelic-ass Beatles movie that got panned at the time, but now is a cult classic. Yeah, I watched it on acid. It was pretty fun. And no, dual helix. I do not like shrooms. I only took those once. It wasn't a disaster of a trip, but it wasn't nearly as fun as LSD. If I could only use one more psychedelic one more time, it would be LSD. Definitely, it would be acid. Copium Poppies. Listen to our album. We need plays. Copiumpoppies.com. I got a hole in me pocket. Tarred and feathered. I get the reference. There was I think it was on Robot Chicken, they had a bit with the Beatles, and then Ringo had a hole in his pocket and stuff. They were making a joke about the movie. It's not a very well-made movie, but if you're high, then it becomes unintentionally hilarious. Like, the art in it is... Don't even get me started on the artwork in that particular cartoon. I think that the people who illustrated the movie were also high on acid. Probably while they were making the drawings. Snakes bleed red. I hate it when people try and lie about taking drugs. Oh, I'm not lying. It's well documented. Back in my Botany 101 days, I had videos where I was high on various substances actually on camera. I've used salvia, LSD, psilocybin, I've used mescaline. Weed, of course, everyone's used that, so that one doesn't really count. I tried making ayahuasca, but it didn't really work. It only gave me auditory hallucinations for a short time, and then I puked all over the place, and it felt like shit. So I would just stick with crystallized DMT. Salvia and Morning Glory were my 2 favorites. Morning Glory is basically LSD Junior, and then I used Amanitas. That was good one time. One time I got the dose exactly right, and I felt like I was floating. Like, I felt like I could, fly off of the floor, and everything was, sort of glimmering and glowing, with a golden color. I can understand why it's related to the whole Santa Claus and Christmas thing. It's also related to reindeer quite explicitly within anthropological studies. They would give the reindeer the mushrooms, then they would drink their piss, basically. They would eat the yellow snow, and then they'd get high. It helps to take out the muscarine and convert it to mucimol. And so people would get high on it all the time. The Vikings, berserkers, actually used to take Amanita muscaria before battle because it would make them feel like they were weightless. I can understand why that would be a thing, because you're not holding back at that point. It's a very weird high. Again, disclaimer, I'm not encouraging you to do any of these substances. In most situations, some of them are illegal. You can grow morning glory and harvest muscaria, but you can't go and drive when you're on these substances, for example. But yeah, I'm not lying when I say that I've done copious amounts of drugs. Oh, snakes bleed red. That was just a statement. It was not directed at you, but your guilty feeling inside made you react. My bad. No, I was just correcting you. Yeah, I've used a lot of. I never used any hard drugs though. I never tried crack or coke, or I've never even seen them. Never did any heroin or anything like that. And these days, I wouldn't want to buy drugs off the street anyway, because half of it's laced with fentanyl. I suppose it'd be hard to do that with acid because the little tab is so small. There aren't a whole lot of drugs that will actually have an effect if they're impregnated into a really tiny piece of paper. So I guess that's still safe. Just don't eat the brown acid, as they warned at Woodstock that one time. French government collapses after Prime Minister loses confidence vote. Yes, Bayrou is out, actually. So now the French government effectively has to reorganize. Macron is not having a good day. We'll put it that way. That makes me happy, because he doesn't deserve any good days, now does he? No, not really. Poor dude. His coalition is collapsed. Ha 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 ha. Couldn't happen to a nicer gentleman. Turtle's Toy Box. Smoking banana peels, nothing is real. Yes, have you ever heard the bananarine hoax? 99% of you have never heard of this. Back in the 1970s and into the 80s, there was a hoax that was perpetuated by a bunch of jokesters that the strings on a banana peel, if you took them and dried them, and then you smoked them, you could get high. And they invented the word bananarine. It was supposedly a psychedelic chemical. And so people were smoking banana peels. Of course, there's no psychedelic substance in them whatsoever. I think it sort of reminds me of something. This overlaps with the occult, oddly enough. If you've ever read the Grimorium Verum, there's one ritual in there that you can do, where you take the head of a dead hanged man, specifically a thief, preferably, at a crossroads, and you bury it in the soil with beans in its eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. Now, by the way, one funny thing. It was very, very funny when I edited this work. This is a total aside. This is just a personal aside from the literary perspective. Originally, it didn't list the nostrils. So 7 beans, but only 5 holes. I interpolated the fact that you're supposed to put it in the nostrils as well, and cover them with dirt, and then they grow, and then an imp appears and offers you whiskey and will give you like 3 wishes, basically. It's a very, very strange work. That's the same thing with regards to the bananarine hoax. Basically, the whole idea was your friends were off in the bushes looking at you doing something clearly stupid that you should have known wasn't going to do anything, like watering the head of a dead man or smoking banana peels, and they were having a great time of it. I have a feeling it was part of a large, long-running joke. That's pretty funny. Tiki briefcase, terracotta pie. Oh, I don't know what the fuck that is. It's probably a real thing. There's nothing new under the sun at this point. I have noticed that. DHS confirms probe of former undocumented Boston lawmaker sentenced in corruption case. Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson previously stated she was someone who's been undocumented. Oh, fucking oops. You mean that the people of Boston elected somebody who was ineligible to hold office? Well, that's never happened before. I can believe it. They're looking into it, and I suspect that they'll probably find that she was indeed undocumented in the United States at one point. Maybe she came and overstayed a visa, or we're not exactly 100% sure. But yeah, it looks like she's probably going to get booted out of the country. Interesting how, by the way, it's always a Democrat who is implicated in such things. I'm not going to bother covering the Jean Carroll judgment. That's just the court upheld the judgment against Donald Trump, which was always based on bullshit. It was he said, she said. A proper court would have looked at the case and said, okay, she's claiming he went into the room with her and then he sexually assaulted and raped her. That's what she claims. He's claiming that never took place. I wasn't even physically there. There's no corroborating photography, no corroborating video footage. There's no corroborating witnesses that were physically there. There are only a couple of people that said, yeah, she told me about it afterwards. That's not evidence at all. That's hearsay. It should have been ruled as hearsay. Trump never should have, and this really pisses me off about the U.S. legal system. If you tried to try Trump for rape in a criminal court, it would have gone nowhere. It would have been definitely thrown out. But in civil courts in the United States, you don't apparently have to prove guilt at all. You can just sue whoever you want and say anything about them, and as long as you happen to have a vagina, it'll automatically be taken seriously. Very, very strange. We have a bizarre legal system in other ways too, like, for instance, you end up in a criminal trial. You're charged with murder or something, and you're found not guilty. But then the family of whoever died sues you in civil court. Well, the threshold is far, far lower. So, hey, you don't have to go to prison. You just have to pay these people $500,000, even though you were found not guilty of that crime by a jury of your peers. In my opinion, if a person is found not guilty in a trial that involves criminality, so something for which you could go to jail for, you should not be able to be sued by anyone else adjacent to that person or by that person themselves in civil court. It should be automatically blocked. Now, the fact that we're not already doing this is completely illegitimate. It makes absolutely no sense. You were found guilty. Not guilty by a jury of your peers. So you're not guilty. Well, why do you have to pay them money for then? At that point, it's just scrounging. Stokon, she literally took the lines from a book. She even copied the Bergdorf store scene. True. Ah! Ha ha ha. Yeah, I see Anton. You know what that means? It's Bovrite time. Fucking delicious. Honestly, I need to make soup again soon. Today I'm having meatball subs. But, yeah, maybe I'll put Bovrite on the meatball sub. Actually, that might not be bad. DC pizzeria owner says hosting Trump would be a privilege. Rejects fears of political maelstrom. Meanwhile, pizzeria previously faced boycott calls after congratulating Trump's election win. This is in Washington, D.C., by the way. So, you know, you're going to get an extra well-done pizza next time because probably Antifa members will burn it to the ground. Assuming that that doesn't happen, this is what needs to be done. If you support a political movement or a political figure or an ideology or something, don't worry too much when people bitch about it. I speak from experience. Years ago, there was a period in which a bunch of liberals were calling me a neo-Nazi. And, you know, generally when a content creator who's, you know, rising up is called Nazi, commie, whatever it is, they respond defensively. What I did is ignore it and laugh at them. That's what you should do. Just ignore these bastards and bitches. Also, they know their audience. DC. Primary tourist spot for people who like Trump because they want to see him on the front lawn. So you're going to get plenty of extra support. You're going to get lots of extra customers. Hope you stocked more of that fucking mozzarella, dude. Mozzarella, by the way, excellent. Copium Poppies missed a super chat from the acid conversation. Oh, sorry. Terracotta pie is a System of a Down reference and an American dessert. Oh. It's physically impossible to overdose on acid. There's a maximum dosage where you won't get any more high and you'll be wasting acid. The amount it would take to die is way higher than that. Yeah, again, as far as I know, there have only been 2 cases, recorded cases in human history where someone has actually managed to take that much acid. It would cost you a lot of money. There are much cheaper methods if you want that to happen. Just like humans, many animals get more aggressive in the heat. Hotter temperatures spark aggression in species from salamanders to monkey. We must return to monkey, by the way. There's a new scientific study, and this part's fun. Salamander Fight Club. Good movie. Watched it the other day, actually. probably watch it again soon. As Sasala calls, the experiment was set up to test how rising temperatures would affect the amphibians' behavior. Black-bellied salamanders, it turned out, were nearly 4 times as likely to act aggressively at 25 degrees Celsius, much warmer than their stream habitats, compared with more natural conditions at 15 or 20 degrees centigrade. And salamanders weren't alone in their raucous behavior. Studies show that many animals, monkeys, rats, mice, fish, ants are always aggressive, tend to get more aggressive at higher temperatures. Now, this tries to tie it in with climate change, which is why it was allowed on Science News. But it's still an interesting study. It makes sense, too. When it's hot and muggy outside, don't you get a little bit more short-tempered? I know that I do. If it's like this weather, right now it's just about perfect. It was cold this morning, kind of. But right now it's, I think, 65 degrees. Just about perfect. Light breeze. Nice, mostly sunny day. It's beautiful out, actually. Might have to go for a little bit of a hike later. Yeah, when it gets like above 85, depending on humidity. I mean, if it's dry heat, you can go a little higher and it's okay. It makes people more irritable. Everyone experiences this. Harrison Bergeron, give me things I already know for 1,000, Alex. Yeah, I mean, it was sort of a duh study, so to speak. Copium poppies, you would have to drink like a bathtub full of acid to overdose. Yeah, apparently that one dude managed to make it happen somehow. You know, I mean, I don't know how he even managed to make it into the airport. I would think that by the time he got there, he'd be tripping high as balls so much he wouldn't even be able to walk. But he did attempt it, ended up dying. Some good shit. Rock out, blackout. Please leave New Orleans alone. We have suffered enough. Oh, did the full moon ritual do something? ICE arrests pint-sized predator from Guatemala New Orleans raid. Oh, they arrested a dwarf. Interesting. New Orleans Archdiocese agrees to $230 million settlement in clergy sex abuse case. Showing the obvious lack of oversight down there. Just saying. I'm not seeing anything else. Oh, a new queer bar opened in Marigny. Wifeys. That reminds me of that song Gay Bar. Haha, yeah. I want to take you to the gay bar. Copium poppies. 50 to 65 degrees overcast is perfect weather. I would take it on the upper end, and yeah, overcast is good. Normally, I don't really like overcast. I would prefer it either be reasonably sunny or just fucking rain. It's like shit or get off the pot. No, Bobby, actually, to you and Purple Cows, I'm not taking credit for anything. I did not actually use magic to cause a gay bar to be erected in New Orleans. That is not actually the case. Copium, he probably had acid that was cut with something if he died, or did something stupid while frying. No, it was actually just acid. But he had such a massive overdose of it, as if I remember correctly, he stroked out. Now, of course, that's probably because he was already going to have one anyway, but it just pushed his body over the limit. That was yeah, I mean, because at first when I was, to be clear, I was writing my psychedelic book. I was writing a book on psychedelics, psychedelic spirituality. And it goes into various drugs, various habits of, human cultures with regards to the use of mind-altering substances. I wrote that, I think, back in 2011 or something like that. It was a long time ago. But when I was researching for it, one of the things that I did stumble upon was the news that actually a couple people had managed to overdose on acid. Again, it's probably a secondary health condition, admittedly, but they did die as a result of their ingestion of enormous amounts of LSD. Originally, I was going to put in that section as be like, nobody's ever died using LSD alone. But then I found out that that was technically wrong. And so you can do an aside, but it did contribute to their deaths. We'll put it that way. Flipper Rex. Actually, I made a video about that this morning. It was my new tech exclusive. So you might want to go over to BitChute or Rumble, and you will see that you are completely wrong and full of shit. Just saying. Yes, indeed. A certain ethnicity was involved with this particular stabbing. Wonder why, considering he said, I got this white girl afterwards. We might be able to establish a motive. Just saying. He was probably also high on something. Probably on fentanyl or some shit. Well, Flipper Rex, sorry, but it's not going to show up on your feed because it was a new tech exclusive. It was not on YouTube. You got to realize, when I don't want to mince words, I have to make it a new tech exclusive. So it'll be on BitChute and Rumble, but it will not be on YouTube. Because if I want to talk frankly, those sites are effectively much less censored in most ways. Like, I can use the hard R on Rumble and BitChute. Nobody cares. I'm never going to get banned off of these sites. If you do that on YouTube, you will get banned. There's a big difference. Unless you're black. If you're black, apparently you're allowed to use that word. Yeah, the dude was a hardened criminal with a lengthy rap sheet and just flipped out randomly and fucking started stabbing this Ukrainian chick. And she cute, too, so it's a loss to the world. Spike, I remember working EMS years ago, and we had 5 people that got stabbed at different bars in one night, and no one saw who did it. Victim 6 saved himself, which was a Mexican midget. Sounds like somebody's led a very, very exciting life. Mr. Busterpants, for bad LSD trips, is Xanax or Valium help? I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I do not know. Never taken any Xannies or anything like that. Rock out, blackout. Hot take, holy fook. Yes, believe it or not, the perp in this particular case happened to be an African-American individual. Surprising most of you, I'm sure. But he just hauls off and starts stabbing her. She was just sitting there on her phone. She wasn't even talking to him or anything. He just decided, hey, there's this white bitch here, I guess I'll kill her. And it's like, you didn't expect to get caught, or, I mean, I'm assuming he is either a complete psycho or was on drugs. One of these two things had to be a compounding factor. Because even someone who's virulently racist probably is not going to stab somebody to death on a commuter train without something else causing them to lose their mind. So, yeah. Doug209. So big tech actually distinguishes color of users? Funny thing. This is hilarious, by the way. They're trying to retrain AI because apparently it has a tendency to be more capable of identifying white people than people who are black or Asian. Like, the ability to identify them, like for facial recognition and sort of things, it's much easier for people who are white. Now, because this is on YouTube, this live stream, I will not opine further on the obvious reason why this is the case. I'm not going to do that. That would be a bannable offense. But I will make a one-off video, I think, tomorrow. And I gotta cover the Greta Thunberg thing. I'll probably just cover right after this live stream. I'll just have a single standalone video. Rabbit. Yes, that might be the cause. I will not respond directly, but for obvious reasons. I like being able to digest lactose-containing products. Let's put it that way. I enjoy cottage cheese. In fact, ooh, this is fun. I'm going to be making paneer fairly soon. All you have to do is use like lemon juice to react with boiling milk, and it'll coagulate, and you can press it out through a cheesecloth, and you can make paneer. But I'm also going to try to take a second batch and make cottage cheese, because the steps to make paneer into cottage cheese aren't really that difficult. And so I've never had homemade cottage cheese before, only from stores, and I love it. So I'm going to try to do that. Copium poppies. Elon lets black chicks say the other F word. I can't say it on a YouTube stream. Without visibility limiting. Though when we quote tweet her and quote the word she used, we immediately get visibility limited, and they deny she violated TOS when we reported. Yeah, this happens. It's a problem. Bobby, one of your fans doesn't believe you. About what? Oh yes, Treebeard, the Nepalese protests. Apparently their leader has pretty much absconded at this point. I think he resigned and then he helicoptered out of the country. I'll be keeping tabs on that particular news story. In fact, I should probably... Yeah, he's resigned and they... Parliament burns in Nepal as protests form prime minister to quit. Okay, so we've got some live coverage, by the way, here. Nepali military officials said they would send troops in to restore order after protesters defied a curfew to attack government buildings and symbols of the ruling elite. The prime minister resigned. Huh. Ha ha ha. I don't know who's protesting against what, but I'll have to put that in the docket for tomorrow. I'll cover that. Oh, Bobby, about offing 17 people with magic. Well, yes, I have, actually. I've already claimed credit for that. It's called Talk Shit, Get Hit. Oh, well. Spike. Not sure if he covered this, but the BLS 12-month revised report came out today. Negative 911,000, negative 13,000 for 2025, and 40% of jobs in 24 were falsely reported. Probably see rate cuts soon and wild times ahead. It wouldn't surprise me. Also, keep in mind, the powers that be do not want a stable economy right now. They want to be able to discredit Trump by collapsing the economy. If they can work it into a recession, they'll be, they won't take a hit because they've got billions of dollars among them. So they don't have to care. So they will put the screws to the little guy in order to try to, force Trump aside, basically. Copium. Elon is woke. He's just as bad as old Twitter. All he did to us, unban big accounts and continue the censorship of the old regime in regards to small accounts. Yeah, I've seen improvement, but it's not enough. I agree. Twitter needs to be even more dedicated to free speech. And Musk would be wise to do this, because if he puts it out there, hey, I don't care if you say the N-word or something like that. You're welcome on the platform. And who gives a shit? Speak freely. That's the whole point of the entire platform. He would get twice as many users very quickly. Professor Purple Cows. Bobby, I'm not reading your posts, lol. It is true, though, Purple Cows. I do work black magic. Quite literally. Most people don't believe me. They believe that there's a giant dude up in the sky that's looking down at everything they do, but they're not willing to admit the fact that magic exists. I don't understand the mentality, but yeah, each to their own. It's all good. Lemon curd. I seriously overslept. This morning I was up at 6:30. I rolled around in bed for a couple of minutes, though, before I actually got up. For some reason, though, I laid wrong, and, some of my muscles are sore, in my arms. I don't know exactly how I accomplished it, but whatever. Kevin Rupert. God doesn't let magic exist. Magic doesn't let God exist. Same conjecture. Inland surfer. After watching the stabbing video, the perp walks off trailing a steady flow of blood. He stabbed her so hard, I think his hand slid off the handle, cutting himself. Well, I hope that he suffers from that cut. I think that most people that are sane agree. Oh, poor baby, you cut your hand. Yeah, I think he was taken to the hospital right afterwards before he was booked in. So yeah, that's probably true. Broken Prophet. Sky Daddy is stronger, Sticks. Doubtful. So much of it. Yeah, there was quite a bit of blood. Like, it looked like it was kind of squirting out. It's like the time that I accidentally jammed my foot into a garden stake. I was creating like an open air composter. So what you do is you put 4 metal stakes in the ground, and then you wrap chicken wire around it, and you put like leaves and shit like that and grass clippings in there, and you layer it, and so you've got your green and your brown. That's important for the balance, and you can just stir it around from time to time, and it rots down into soil. And I figured, well, I've got a shit ton of leaves, I've got a shit ton of grass clippings. This will be easy, right? Wrong. The metal fin that I was going to drive down into the ground, I couldn't get it all the way down just with a sledgehammer, so I figured I'm just going to jump on top of it, which is what a lot of people do. The problem is my foot slipped, and it went right through my boot. And immediately I knew, shit, this is going to be bad. When I pulled my foot back and took my boot off, it was already squirting blood all over the place. And so I like half stumbled, half jogged into the house. Mom was out on the on the deck. I'm like, move now. Get out of my way. Don't ask questions. I was trailing blood all through the house. Got into the bathroom so I could wash the wound. And then I decided to bandage it up. And I did a good job of it. I didn't get infected or anything. But I sterilized it with whiskey, actually, at the time, with Jack Daniels, because I had it on hand, because I was a drinker. And so I sterilized the wound. Then I very, very heavily wrapped it, like a pressure bandage sort of thing. And thankfully, you know, I didn't need to. They were telling me, oh, you should go to the hospital. Like, I'm not going to go to the fucking hospital. Are you fucking crazy? You think I want to go there and get sepsis or something like that? No, thank you. So I dressed it myself. I've done that multiple times. I've been severely injured before. Thankfully, I know enough about medicine, especially herbal medicine. I can take care of things. For example, if you want a poultice for wounds that'll keep them from getting infected, and this is not medical advice in the stringent sense, you can take powdered sulfur, mix it in about 50-50 with what's called petrocarbo. Now, petrocarbo is not recommended for significant wounds, but for smaller ones, like a significant cut, but it's, you know, you didn't lacerate a vein or anything like that, but it's, you know, quite bloody and unfortunate. If you mix them about 50-50, sulfur is antimicrobial, petrocarb prevents itching and also promotes healing of wounds. And if you mix them together right and smear that on the wound and then put a pressure bandage on it, you should be right as rain. You'll need to change it regularly, of course. But it was not pleasant. And also, because that fin had been in a pile of rotting vegetable remains, I was worried about getting infected. Thankfully, that didn't happen. I've still got the cut on my foot, actually. Inland surfer. Oh no, I already read that one. Copium poppies. It's not even just slurs. If you criticize Elon or go against whatever narrative he is pushing at the time, you'll be targeted. If you don't specifically break TOS, they falsely accuse you of being spam. Well, also, if you have any public exposure at all, people will false flag you. It's happened to me over and over again. Not provided. Hey, ugly? Just kidding. How are you doing? I'm doing fairly well. I own the ugly term quite proudly. I mean, I am no Adonis, admittedly. Just saying. I guess Professor Purple Cows and Bobby have a little feud going on, which is hilarious, actually. Harrison Bergeron, biggest fallacy when it comes to home wound care is putting peroxide on it, especially puncture wounds. Yes. Using an antiseptic wash with isopropylene is better. You can also use ethyl alcohol, which is basically liquor, if you've got it on hand. If you happen to be drinking, yes, whiskey is highly antimicrobial. It will clean out the wound. All you have to do is clean it out. It's going to hurt a little bit. Just saying. Once it's clean, you antiseptic it, and then you bandage it up. And then you change the bandage. It'll probably still be a little bit bloody for a while. It might take a while to coagulate. Keep in mind, though, animals, and also humans in many places, suffer grievous injuries on a regular basis and survive with nothing more than a scar to tell. I've got many of them. Like, for instance, I've got a scar right here on my hand. Right here. And that's because I was polishing one of my swords. I was cleaning it off and getting it ready to get oiled and so forth. In fact, I've got the sword right here, come to think of it. It was this one. Thank you very much. That was real fun. And I was, scraping the material over it to try to remove any, rust and shit like that. Because it's, almost 200 years old. It's from the Napoleonic era. And then it jammed me right in the meat of my thumb. When that happened, I said shit. And by shit, I mean fuck. Because it is exceptionally sharp, and it went right through it. I'm surprised it didn't go past the bone and out the other side of my hand, actually. Lord help you if you're facing this bad boy. But I started free bleeding, and I immediately clamped like this. And this is when I was in the Netherlands, right? So I'm like, Liz, hey, I need help. I need the medical kit, and I need it right now. And I was like holding the wound shut, trying to keep it from gushing blood. When I opened it up, it was like it started squirting out everywhere. Like I think I might have nicked a vein or something like that. I still do not have full feeling in that thumb, by the way. I think I may have severed a nerve in the process. So yeah, I've got that one. Then I've got the one from the steak, and I've got a slice in my leg, actually, from falling on a log. And that one's a big-ass scar. Copium, the fact that you can be flagged at all proves my point. They know damn well that the report button is weaponized, yet they don't eliminate it or the parts of the TOS that allows for banning legal speech. Yeah, they should limit what you're capable of reporting for. That is a problem on the site. It's a problem on YouTube, too. There were a few people fairly recently who said that they had a false flagging rate against them and they got taken off. I think they got their accounts restored, but, it's still an inconvenience. Happened to me a couple of times, earlier on. Generally, once you've gotten to the partner level, you're generally considered innocent until proven guilty. But if you have a smaller account, yeah, they can still abuse that. Yeah, I love this sword. I bought it when I was in the Netherlands. There was this, it was like a sword shop. They had all sorts of blades, bayonets, cutlasses, sabers. I almost got the boarding cutlass. I'm glad that I didn't, though, because then now I've got my own subscriber-made boarding cutlass, and it's Damascus steel. I cleaned and oiled that, actually, not long ago. But I am partial to cavalry sabers because they're just fucking sexy. Look at that shit. Look at how great that looks. And it's awfully sharp. My thumb knows. Yeah, baby. You don't want to, you don't want to fuck around with that. You wouldn't want to give it to a small child. They may end up dead. Copium, except YouTube never promised free speech. Well, the old Google motto was don't be evil. They changed that for a reason. Cutlass! Yes, we'll show off the cutlass! Freshly cleaned and freshly oiled. It's got a little bit of residue from, actually. Yeah, that's not rust or anything like that. That's actually some leather. Yeah, this was made by a subscriber. It's Damascus steel. And this is the real deal, so I was really, really happy. Actually, when a few rust spots started to try to come up on it, that actually made me happy, because otherwise, say, oh, well, it's some cheap stainless steel or something like that that just got pressed to look like Damascus steel. But it's not. No, it's real. I love my cutlass. It completes the look. I'm a goddamn pirate. Corn Pop, hey Stinks, I'm a big fan, bro, especially when you oil your swords. Yeah, let me oil that sword, man. Yeah. And I also keep the machete next to me. Boy, oh boy, would that fucking hurt. Can you imagine if you latched this around someone's neck and just wrenched it to the side? They wouldn't be alive for very long. Just saying. I should probably carry this when I go out for walks in the woods. Maybe. And then, of course, I've got the artillery sword. Ta-da! This is what I normally carry. I carry this when I go to the fucking store. Nobody can stop me because it's perfectly legal in the state of Vermont, for which I am very thankful. You know, Rutland supposedly is one of the most dangerous cities in America. It's not, but, you know. Yeah, machete with a gut hook. That's what I'm talking about. Broken Prophet, a sword is legal? Yeah, I could have a longsword hatched to my back like Aragorn or something like that, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. No, Wawhead Rex, this is an artillery sword. It was made by Solingen for the World War I era and was given to the Argentinian military, which is funny because we were talking about Javier Milei this morning. It's an artillery sword. Typically, the artillery soldiers would carry swords such as this. They were shorter and more compact. They weighed less, and they're still perfectly functional. The idea was that the artillery crew therefore could defend itself, but they weren't expected to generally need to do so in combat. So there's no reason for them to bring a saber or anything like that. It's more for close quarters combat. It's also very good for indoor combat. You know, if you're indoors and you're defending yourself against someone, do you really want a long sword? Probably not. You're going to hit the wall more often than you're going to hit them. With this, you can run them through, you can slash at them, do whatever you want. Pound them in the head with the butt of the, there's a reason why there's metal on the end, and so forth. It's fun. I like collecting blades. I like blades much more than I like guns. I got plenty more. I got the Knights of Columbus sword, multiple knives. Then I've got the long sword. I do have a long sword, although that's a wall hanger. That's not a functional blade. That's more for decoration. It's fun. Copium Poppies! So when can you have your gun rights back? Swords are useless for self-defense. If up against someone with a gun, you should appeal your finding of guilt. Not necessary. Pneumatic weapons are still legal. Flamethrowers are still legal. Various other implements are still legal. It would be a very bad idea if someone fucked with me, we'll put it that way. Guns. Ha 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 ha. King of Biltong. Need a high-protein snack to wield your sword? Biltong is the perfect answer without preservatives or sugar to slow you down. Available at www.biltongusa.com. Use code STIX10 for 10% off. Anton has been mentioned. Ha ha ha. Skippy Sticks the Surf is fine with his rights being taken. I oppose disarming people as a result of criminal cases. That being said, at the same time, I am more than adequate at self-defense. It would be hysterical. Someone breaks in and you blast them with a flamethrower. Like, yeah, my house might burn down, but, you know, they're gone. They're not a problem. Actually, Bobby, I can. Because there is such a thing as court shopping, or judge shopping as it's called. If you establish residency down in the Fifth Circuit region, down in Texas, there are courts that are very amenable once your probation is over towards restoring your gun rights. So, you know, I can always just do that. Won't take long. Won't take much money either, thankfully. Copium, but when can you have your gun rights back? Well, I just explained that. I mean, technically, as a member of the militia, I already have those gun rights, and there's nothing that the court system can do constitutionally to prevent me from owning them. I just decided to go the easy route and say, whatever, and go ahead and take my Glock. The little one wasn't much use anyway because my hands are too big to actually use it. First time I shot it, the slide actually came down right here and pinched on my thumb. Oh boy, did that fucking hurt. Holy goddamn shit. That was not a pleasant time. It took a little while to extract it and a very large amount of pain. Harrison Bergeron, just put steaks in the sous vide. If you don't have one, it's worth the money. I know that some people cook steaks in dishwashers, I guess it is, or something like that. I don't know. Twisted Gamer, just get a black powder gun. I don't think there are restrictions on that. Yes, exactly. There are no restrictions on me owning black powder weapons, including the revolving kind. That'll take care of business. I mean, it's not like I expect to have to engage somebody at 200 yards or something like that. That's probably not going to happen. So at intermediate distance, if you want a distance weapon, you've got a variety of options. I'm not very good with archery, but I would like to get one of those wrist launchers, the ones with the ultra-sharp darts. I think that would be funny as fuck. I've always wanted one. You could use a slingshot if you wanted, but yeah, it's pretty useless. You could use a blowgun. In fact, you could put poison on the tip. Yeah. It's amazing that the government has conditioned people to be so wary of firearms, think that they're a unique class of weapons, yet there are all of these other weapons that are perfectly legal for even a violent felon to possess. They can be incarcerated in an asylum, declared a literal lunatic. They get out 5 years later, they can go get a blowgun. Perfectly legal. They can buy a flamethrower. They can buy anything except for a smokeless powder weapon. Those are the only ones that they have a problem with. Trust me, if you had a bunch of people with blowguns tipped with poison, it wouldn't take long for them to mow down a large number of people. Just saying. Yeah, Mike Oglesby, air guns can take down elk. I actually looked into possibly buying one when I was in the Netherlands. Pneumatic weapons are perfectly legal there. You just can't get, generally speaking, you can't get what would be conceived of as normal handguns and stuff like that. Unless you're law enforcement or you're a diplomat or something like that, you're probably not going to be able to get one. But pneumatic weapons that'll literally blow the head off of a bear are perfectly legal. Very interesting. Oh yeah, you can have a gun. You just can't have that sort of gun because of the propellant that's used. That's basically the ethos. And it doesn't make any sense. Not provided. There was a Mythbusters episode. Can you cook a lasagna in a dishwasher? It turned out to work, but it wasn't crispy and it was a bit slow. Huh. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to do that. If there's no crisp on the lasagna, I don't want it. Sorry. Rockout Blackout. The quartering is shitting everywhere. What is this about the quartering and poop? Is this some sort of inside joke or something? I don't know. Cheridolf Sittler, and a pneumatic gun wouldn't deafen you or blind you in shooting indoors at night. True. Yeah, there are advantages to gas-powered guns. And some of them, again, they can take down large game. Imagine what they'll do to a human. Some of them can reach considerable muzzle velocities. Bobby Poppinson. Sticks, the Kataring is going to grape you with goats, and the quartering is going to impale you with dildo brand dildos while pooping if you don't burn the pirate hat tonight. Lone Atheist, they won't let it go on his charges. If you mean my charge, actually, again, if I go judge shopping, I can get it taken off the books really easily, actually. It's just a matter of time. I mean, I'm not even particularly concerned with bothering, though, because there are so many other weapons that you can have that are perfectly legal for everyone, and much more damaging than the evil, scary guns anyway. Yeah, you know what a flamethrower will do against a crowd of people if you really were inclined to do that? I'm surprised nobody's done it yet. Once somebody gets blasted in the face with a wall of liquid flame, they're probably not fighting back. Dab Shank the First. Hey, Stick Sex and Hammer, I don't have a problem with the Quarterly. The fact that he helped you out in your time of need when he did not have to makes him look cool in my book. I agree, and that's why I mean, I don't understand when people have a problem with the quartering. I really don't. Yeah. Oh shit, we're at an hour 35? Well, time flies when you're having fun. Oh no, I enjoy a little bit of bants. Jeffrey Duran, Sticks, why aren't you casting spells to get your charges dropped? Because I do not care to. It is meaningless to me. It's some funny shit. A lot of people probably think that I care a lot more than I do, actually, about these ongoing cases. Not really. It's more like, shrug your shoulders. No, Bobby, no, he didn't. Yes, Kevin Rupert, I was found guilty of battery, actually, down in New Orleans. It was, of course, absurd bullshit, but the court can find whatever way it wants. Loghead Rex, 419 FPS Bodkins penetrate body armor. You can also penetrate it with like a crossbow or something. Even those little wrist mounted ones, they have a lot less pull, of course. Even those, I believe, are penetrative towards soft body armor, if I remember correctly. They probably wouldn't do a terrible amount of damage, but, for what it's worth. Those are pretty fun, though. I'm just not good at archery. I have tried to figure it out. I'm very good with a revolver. I can, hit the target 50 times out of 50 most of the time. It's not really that difficult. I'm also good at darts for some reason. I'm pretty good at that. But I just can't get the knack of archery, which is sad because I always wanted to do archery as a kid. Skippy, cast a spell to make Yellowstone erupt. End it all. Sadly, that wouldn't actually end it all. Ah, Kevin Rupert, get an atlatl. Actually, I was considering making one of those. Those are cool. It's like it has a handle, and the wood goes back like here, and there's a little holster, and the spear, which can be metal tipped, or it wouldn't have been back then, but you can tip it with metal, like a little arrow, and then you throw it at the target, and it's a distance weapon. If you want to see a good example of that, look up, what's that movie with Perlman there? You know, the one who's shit obsessed. What was it called? How Man Discovered Fire or something like that. They use an atlatl at one point in that movie, if I remember correctly. Good movie, by the way. Yeah, Ron Perlman was in it. As a Neanderthal, if I remember correctly. An ape man. Which is what he is. Yeah, the atlatl is pretty good. Opinionated junkie. If the battery was that bad, you be in prison. Yeah. Again, I'll explain more about this retarded and lengthy legal bullshit in the future. But generally speaking, it's best to remain as silent as possible with regards to legal matters. So, yeah, you're going to have to wait a while. I'm not getting myself in any more bizarre situations because it's a waste of my time. Tarred and feathered. Your problem with archery is closing the wrong eye. Try switching sides and shooting left-handed. I already shoot left-handed, actually. And you're not supposed to close your eyes when you're doing archery. Oh, Quest for Fire. Yeah, that's true. Not provided. Will humanity colonize space and become multi-planet? No, it will not. However, it's perfectly acceptable to create lunar colonies. We're capable of doing that, and we can always create mining colonies on Mars, but they won't be permanently, it's impossible to maintain it on a permanent basis. Not enough resources. Dab Shank the First. I'm in East Los Angeles and I just saw Mexican sticks riding a motorcycle literally dressed and looked like you. Cool. Anyways, I'm going to go offline here. I've got some docketing to do. Not much, though, because now I've got several news stories here. The Thunberg story, Nepalese protests, and so forth. I'll be covering them tomorrow. I should probably cover them now, but I want to hold them over, because, who gives a shit? And then, yeah, we'll go live again tomorrow. I've got to eat a meatball sub later. I'm fucking starving. That's about all. Peace out.